Hello and welcome to Trekker's Delight Live Show. This is Thursday night, so we don't have a new episode to review today, but we have Star Trek news as we wait for Lower Deck Season 4 to launch next week. I'm Keith Shevlin hosting tonight with the ever wonderful Marie Brownhill and, as always, the enigmatic William Walford, who has a friend with us today. William, would you like to introduce your friend to the crowd?
Hey guys, my name is William Walford, and I have Jordan Turner here, who is the guest. But when I tell you that he is a virgin when it comes to Star Trek, I have a feeling we're going to be popping cherries tonight.
Just take it easy. It's my first song. Just go slow. That's all I ask for.
I think it's adorable that you think we will.
I mean, that's exactly what he said. So,
all right.
Well,
So Keith has a giant pile of juicy tidbits of news to share with us. I am, for one, am really excited because I saw Prodigy listed. So, Take it away.
that more. All right, before we get into the news list, first of all, I wish a happy birthday to Marie Brownhill.
Thank you. I am the answer to life, the world, and everything this year.
Yes.
And also a happy birthday to Jason McCammon, who could not join us because today is his actual birthday.
Yes. Yes, we have a bunch of Virgos on this podcast, apparently.
Makes sense.
yeah, we have a
I have a huge Virgo family. Huge.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not a big fan of astrology, but apparently I am Virgo to Virgo to Virgo.
But Virgo, September is the most common birthday month because most people celebrate the holiday in a lovely way.
So basically, on
That was a birthday gift to my dad.
So basically, they go to Pound Town on Valentine's Day. And
No, or cold winters need
November.
Yeah,
For me,
November.
I was legitimately a birthday gift.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah. No, a friend of mine actually did that math for me and just kind of maniacally smiled, and I'm just like, "You're going to the
I have
special hell."
purposely made it my mission not to know the math. Fine.
I knew I was an old baby. My mom said she was on birth control, so I'm literally that 0.01%.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this has gotten real weird real fast out of the gate.
You
So
played the
Keith,
lottery?
Okay, so
Okay, all right. Since
sorry.
being Marie's birthday yesterday, we'll start off with the Prodigy news, where a friend of the show, Aaron Waltke, sat down with the people who run TrekMovie.com for an interview yesterday, and he said that they are very, very close to signing a deal with someone to not only host season 2 of Prodigy, but subsequent seasons of Prodigy. Not just a possible season 3, but onward from there. He said that they did a poor job when they got the news out that Prodigy was being pulled, of not making it sound like Prodigy was canceled, but it is not. It is definitely going to have season 2 airing somewhere, but the fact it will not end with season 2 is his expectation. So it seems they are already planning for an eventual season 3. And since with animated shows, you tend to renew in 2-year increments so that they can get a lot of that production work done quickly.
Man, his lips are the great bird of the galaxy's ears.
Absolutely. Now, one of the places that will definitely not be paying to host Star Trek Prodigy is Disney Plus. Because it was announced this week that Disney Plus was cutting back due to various issues with money as well as the strikes, and they canceled the Spiderwick Chronicles, which was in pre-development. They had hired a cast, they had written scripts, and they decided to not move forward with the show, even though it was well on its way to being produced in partnership with Paramount. So it was being produced by Disney with Paramount for Disney Plus. So now they have relinquished their rights to it completely. So now Paramount now has to shop that show around as well. So definitely no chance that Star Trek will be coming to Disney anytime soon, which I feel is a pretty good thing, even though Ahsoka's done pretty well so far.
Yeah, but the mouse is kind of draconian in terms of how it controls content and how it controls distribution. So in a certain sense, I'm actually really glad, because that means we've got a greater chance of seeing it distributed on a wider platform and available to a wider audience than just Disney. I mean, I get it. Everybody has Disney Plus. All right, I do.
Either that or you're borrowing it from someone else.
I'm borrowing
mine.
It is the number 2 streaming service now.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
But I do really like the idea of them still having like creative control in a way that you're not going to get when you interact with the mouse.
Absolutely. And of course, the Hageman brothers, they have a long history of working with Netflix. So Netflix is still the favorite to end up getting it, but no announcements yet. So we'll have to see on that.
I mean, but that's also got its own kind of can of worms. Certainly, we're seeing a lot of flux with like The Witcher.
Yeah, but I mean, they worked with them when they were producing the Troll Hunter series, and so there's an understanding there, and that show was definitely given a chance to really stretch its wings, and then led to even a spinoff coming off the show. So.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Netflix has already worked with Paramount in hosting early seasons of Discovery. So,
yes.
So we will see about that. But there is hope for Prodigy continuing, not just season 2, but beyond that. Moving on to more news on the strike. The strike partially ended today.
Partially.
Yes.
Hey.
AMC has reached a deal with the SAG-AFTRA, with the Actors Guild, to allow production of AMC shows to continue. They met pretty much all the demands of SAG-AFTRA, and they said, we are part of AMPTP, but we are deciding we're going to make a separate deal from the rest of the organization.
So basically, one of the productions are basically saying, here, just come back.
Yeah, so like Interview with a Vampire, that is going back into production now.
Oh,
Jermaine's gonna be thrilled.
Yes.
Jermaine's gonna love it.
I figured Jermaine would love to hear that. Yes. But yeah, so any show that you watched on AMC that was an AMC production is now going back into production because they reached that deal. They're claiming that they had the writers, that they had the written product ready to go, that they can go into production without having the Writers Guild strike settled, but the fact that they would reach a deal with SAG-AFTRA gives one hope. So, and they did say that they have enough material banked to go into 2024.
Shut your ass.
Whereas some networks are already starting to re-air stuff, like such as CBS going to be airing 2 episodes of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds next week. But that's part of Star Trek Day, but don't be surprised if they keep on airing episodes after that, like they did with Discovery during the pandemic.
Right.
So good news on the labor front. Deadline reported last night that the leadership of the AMPTP gathered together to get their shit together because they completely screwed up negotiations with the Writers Guild last week, and they led to a lot of infighting between the different studios, with apparently David Zaslav of Warner Brothers Discovery being the big trouble, the most obnoxious voice in the room, which is not surprising.
Shocked face.
Yeah. So apparently they met for a private meeting last night to try to all get on the same page, and nothing was announced today. So they were hopeful that maybe something, but the strike is we're now as of a couple hours from now, we'll be in September. So we'll be going into the 4th month of the Writers Guild strike and the 2nd month of the Screen Actors strike.
What
Crazy.
is there any word on any hope of any of the other production companies falling in line, or is it just
Well, a lot of the indie companies are going ahead and making side deals with both SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild. So some of these smaller ones where they only put out one movie a year, art house films, stuff like that, they are making deals.
But that's
And
not terribly shocking though.
yeah. Now what
Because they're
is
not gonna they don't have the same they don't have the same bank of content.
yeah, and they did point out the fact that everything that Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA is asking for, Netflix is already providing to their contributors in Europe.
what?
Yes, everything they're asking for, they're already giving to people in Europe because
So-
the European Union mandated it.
Yes.
So
I was,
what-
I was about to say that.
I was
That
going to
has
say what they're
everything
asking for is
to do
equal
with-
treatment, is what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Marie.
yes, but Europe has long had a history of having better labor laws than we do.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they did go through the Victorian period and had to
Well,
deal with that. But in terms of legally speaking, they're so far ahead of us.
Yeah.
Just so far ahead of us in terms of the rights of workers and the rights of people generally.
Yeah, the United States has a strong libertarian streak that we don't like to talk about sometimes, but yeah, it's definitely there in our labor laws.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Little bit. Also, I'm really
So-
entertained by the Blues Brothers going on down there.
I mean, I was just joining the vibe. Like, I just happen to have a pair of shades right here.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You just need some cigarettes and like car keys. That's really what's missing here.
I'm public, so I'm to kind of sum up. I do a lot of creative stuff as well. But yeah, I actually like wearing these glasses. I actually work with the fashion brand. These are the glasses, but I'm a nerd at heart. I just need to get on track with Star Trek. That's all. It
You
seems
do.
interesting. Like it really seems like the lore of it, and for it to be on for 55 years, something has to be done right. Like they're doing
Lots of
something.
things. Lots of
Like-
things. But before we get to that, let's make sure that I don't mean to cut you off, but I do
No,
want to
no,
make sure
you're
that Keith manages to finish.
Yeah.
And then
So-
we will talk about all the things.
Mhm.
All right.
Because
So
I want to listen for this.
there is a report that came out that Bleeding Cool reported on that the Section 31 movie is going into production, whether the strike is ended or not. Apparently, they're going to start production in Canada in October, and the information listed it under a different name. Instead of Star Trek Section 31, it was being listed as Star Trek Station 31, which I think is somebody
Hold
that
up.
Paramount
What?
just screwed up.
What?
I'm gonna be really interested actually to see how that works
I'm
because
gonna-
the Trek family is really, really pro union.
Yeah.
I am that better be a working title. Like
With the exception of a very prominent Voyager actor.
because Section 31 is this whole mysterious undercover black ops space group that's Section 31 on the Federation Charter,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, considering
Well,
the
no.
announcement
Okay.
also listed her as Captain Giorgio, when no Captain Giorgio is dead. This
I'm
is-
sorry, do
Is-
we not have the
Is
rights?
is
Emperor
dead and
Giorgio.
cannibalized.
Yes, this is Emperor Giorgio.
Yes. Yes.
So-
but my understanding is that Michelle Yeoh is actually a member of the guilds as well.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she ain't
So-
gonna play. Don't play with her money.
Yeah, so the fact that
No.
they listed this as in development pre-production with production starting in October, take that with a grain of salt, especially with the incorrect information that is listed here. But they are hopeful, obviously, of getting back to it at sometime soon.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely, Ezekiel.
Yeah. Hey Zeke. Yeah. Come through.
Well, it's a case of they can fight it here, and
Yes.
our government.
Right.
There's nothing the government is going to do to step in on this.
No.
Especially since the government, as far as the labor department, one currently still does not have a sitting secretary. We have an acting secretary,
Right.
but the auto workers are getting ready to strike. And so that any attempt to deal with strikes right now, that is the focus. And then there's UPS and Postal Service that are talking about striking. So there's a lot.
So by the way, go out and mail things. Go
Yes.
out and use snail mail. Support your postal service.
Absolutely.
Please.
Considering they're now switching to electric vehicles for their fleet, that'll be a substantial improvement to fight climate change.
And also, BT Dubs, nobody wants to pay FedEx prices to send a letter.
Absolutely.
No. Come on.
Yeah, the fact that it still costs only less than $1 to send a letter is absolutely insane. So, okay, so that pretty much covers my news list. I mean, there's continues to be more releases from master replicas of the former Eaglemoss items, such as I got the USS Pasteur from All Good Things, but they're releasing some things from the Kelvin movies starting tomorrow. And if you have already ordered stuff from them, they will send you a code that for the next month. And if you buy 2 ships that were featured in Star Trek Picard, you get 2 more ships for free.
Oh, really?
I'm going to need that code.
Yeah, I'm going to need that too, because I need something to decorate my desk.
That would be cool.
I have floating shelves. And I've gotten rid of the world's worst roommate. So like I suddenly have space.
Cool.
Nice little ships. Like
and my boys really, really love the starships. I'm not gonna lie. It's really adorable to watch 2 5-year-olds talk about the Enterprise and how angry they get at every time a Klingon ship shows up.
Nice.
Well, like when I got the Kobayashi Maru, I showed it to my oldest, and she was like, "Oh my god, it's so beautiful." I'm like, I mean, it's nice, but okay.
You're holding so much trauma in your hands right now.
Yes. I mean, the reason I got it wasn't because of its beauty, but all right.
Right? No. Like Heath was like, I want the trauma.
Yeah.
100%.
Always the trauma. What it represents.
Like the trauma and the drama.
Yeah.
All right. So I hear that we have a gentleman who has questions about Star Trek fandom and what it means to us. So let's give that a shot. All right, Jordan.
So,
a needle pulling thread?
I'm just gonna.
No, so my biggest thing, or one of my biggest questions with Star Trek fandom is how do you feel Star Trek relates to your everyday life or some experiences? Do you feel like you've actually built your moral compass from just watching the series for so long? Because me personally, I've developed a lot of my moral compass just from watching anime, like from watching Naruto, learning how to give up, and watching Bleach about friendship, or Dragon Ball Z about just training, persevering, pushing through.
I gotta get you off shonen, by the way. Like you've got to explore some shoujo there.
No. This is 25 years plus of watching anime. I've seen all type. I know shonen. I mean, I'm a boy. Shonen is marketed to boys of the ages 13 to 18, so that's what I grew up on. But now, like romance, like I'm obsessed with this other animators idols. But back to the question. So what is that thing that really you can just say you could take away from Star Trek that just really just it's instilled into you and just who you are?
Keith, you want to take it?
Well,
yeah, I was gonna say this is a person by person.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you a lot of my moral background comes from 2 things primarily. Scouting and Star Trek. I'm an Eagle Scout. I was an officer. I was not only in my troop, but rose up levels in scouting as an officer and helping out with others. But at the same time, when I go home, I was watching Star Trek, and I was looking at as this is our future if we can make it happen. And I was always desperate to try. Whenever they would do time travel episodes and show the past, I really loved that because I wanted to see the markers we needed to hit to get to that Star Trek future, so that we could all collectively work towards that. Unfortunately, there's some pretty dark markers we have to hit. 600 million dead from World War III, for instance.
Yeah.
But
I know I gotta binge watch. So from what I'm gathering, basically,
So Ezekiel is clearly on par with me. Like
yeah,
I feel you.
that's so Star Trek has in a way helped you understand how to develop a better life just all around.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
okay,
100%.
okay. I like that.
Because the central message really underlying Star Trek, and I've talked pretty extensively on this channel about this, is that is of hope, which sets Star Trek apart from so many different franchises because so much of particularly our sci-fi genre is dystopian. So this idea that we as a species can get our proverbial ish together and work on our planet and work on ourselves and reach the stars looking for something better is revolutionary. Um, growing up in rural South Georgia, it was huge for me to see Benjamin Sisko,
My captain.
right? Because
Mhm.
Benjamin Sisko was in charge of Deep Space Nine, and that combated a narrative about black men and black fathers in particular
Absolutely.
that I was getting fed, but also getting the opportunity to watch The Next Generation because there's a huge conversation with The Next Generation where people are respected. You know, I was watching, Beverly Crusher have input and not be belittled for it. I mean, even Troy gets to have input
Yeah.
and not get belittled for it. There are issues with Troy that we'll just set aside for a second. Um, but it was really really huge growing up in a patriarchal society to see that kind of negotiation, that kind of interaction. Um, and just basically the embrace of difference, which is
Well,
one of those things that I work really, really hard to instill into my children, and how important it is to recognize that no matter our differences, at our core, at our fundamental level, we are more alike than we are different. I don't care where you're from, what cultural background you're hailing from. You still want love. You still want respect. You still want basic human decency. That might look a little bit different depending on where you're from, but like just recognizing that and being able to embrace that and being able to find a way to balance those interests is such a huge message in Star Trek that you're not really going to get anywhere else.
well,
Mm.
I come from small town Western Pennsylvania, which is majority white, Scots Irish, or Eastern European. So when I watched original series Star Trek, and what they taught and what was so important about it back in the '60s still hit me as a kid growing up in the '80s. Seeing on screen an Asian man at the helm, a black woman at communications,
Mhm.
a even though he was doing a fake Russian accent, a Russian guy at navigation, a fake Scottish accent, but a Scottish guy in engineering. I mean, and then of course an alien as your science officer. The idea of the diversity of that crew was just absolutely incredible, especially when compared to every other science fiction and crop
And there's
property out
and
there.
there's also no chosen one narrative
Right.
in Star Trek, which is huge. There's nothing beyond your willingness to do the work that's going to get you on a Star Trek or a Starship bridge.
Right.
Okay.
Like you've got to, I mean, you literally have to go to school to do this. Like knowledge, expertise, work, all of these things are valued in a way that we're not really seeing across American culture and in American media. And that's still true. There's also an emphasis on collaborative action, right? Like you have to consult with somebody who knows more about X, Y, or Z than you do in
Mhm.
order in order to find the solution. That's what's great about Strange New Worlds, right? Like because we're seeing Anson Mounts Pike create and redefine, in a certain sense, masculinity for a new generation because Pike is a very collaborative captain, and at no point is there any sort of weird ego that's associated with that. It's literally just Pike going, "You know more about warp engines than I do, or you know more about how to fly the ship than I do. You know more how to do all of these things. tell me what you think I should do. Let's entertain various scenarios, and let's learn from that and move on. And that's huge.
Mhm.
Huge. And if I can teach, I mean, if I can teach my kids how to do that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's half the battle right there. I mean, we're gonna set aside the red and blue lasers from GI Joe, but like just being able to negotiate with other people and recognize the value of somebody else's input is enormous. Like, try to envision that existing in a Star Wars universe. And I'm not calling out Star Wars on this, by the way. Like, I'm not, because I think there's a lot of really awesome storytelling and a lot of awesome stuff in the Star Wars universe. But it is very much a chosen one kind of narrative. Like, I mean, they're literally space wizards.
I mean, just look at when you look at the cast makeup of the first movie, it's majority white, and you get Lando in the second movie, and then of course it's been said in was it Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith movie, about how you had Darth Vader as this visage of a Nubian god sort of thing, and then of course in Return of a Jedi he takes off the mask to show a pasty white man underneath.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to say, that it was Andrew Martin that made that Facebook comment, because I see it on my phone. But he said Star Trek shows what we're capable of achieving as a society, but it also shows that we're not perfect, despite how far we could go. And if I may segue, because for me, my earliest memory in my life was of Star Trek. It was what was it, Encounter at Farpoint, and I didn't know what I was seeing at the time, but
I hate you with love right now.
I did not bring a year into this. I did not say what year it was. I just said
I hate you with love.
Okay, yeah, mean it. But anyway, over time, when I didn't really have much of a social life, in the middle of Brinkley, Arkansas, in the middle of the country, where straights didn't like gays, blacks didn't like whites, whites didn't like blacks, we did a bunch of shit. I would stay home and I would watch Star Trek, because it showed me at a certain age that society at some point figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
They figured it out. They got together. Now they're still met with a bunch of issues when they reach space, but it's like, if they can figure it out, why can't we? I
also kind of want to touch a little bit on Andrew's point in conjunction with that, because what the great part about Star Trek is they don't always get it right. They don't always figure it out. But the point is that they get up and they try consistently to do better. One of the and Andrew, you might want to like close your ears for a second. One of my favorite episodes in the most recent episode or recent series of Strange New Worlds is Under the Cloak of War. And Under the Cloak of War deals with some incredibly complex themes. And the point is everybody's kind of right, and there's not a good solution. And the point is that we find that they're working on finding ways to navigate these issues to do the greatest amount of good. And just sit with that for a second. Like, where else are you going to find that narrative, right? Like where you're not going to get it right, but you still pick yourself up and you continue.
Right. Because it's like the fact that I think it was the line that Data said, the effort, or how was it? You remember the line in TNG? It's not the destination that matters, but the effort along the journey, like, is what reaps the most rewards, or something. Like, he said something on par to that. It's like the fact that we keep trying, that we keep getting up, and that we keep going, and that progression, and that how many times it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up, that shows the progression of society. It's just like after World War III, they kept going. Apparently after some kids screamed and caused a warp core breach across half the quadrant.
Dude, you're spoiling
But I mean, Jordan mentioned Bleach earlier, and there's a very real sort of personal improvement narrative in a lot of your shonen anime. Star Trek takes that and actually applies it societally wide.
Yeah.
So the point is not that just you are doing better for yourself, but you're doing better for everyone because we are all
Everyone, like working as a
connected.
community.
Yes.
So what I'm really gathering from what a lot of you guys are saying is one of the biggest things from Star Trek is it does have a formula of building a sense of community that works, that can be productive instead of counterproductive.
As long as they don't put you in a hot box. Sure.
But that's also
Okay, I'm like-
that's also kind of the thing about Star Trek though. It's like they put them in these hot boxes and they're like, you're going to fight each other, and they're like, yeah, no.
What's it like?
No, we're actually going to sit there, and sometimes it's going to involve rubbing decontamination gel all over ourselves. But
Before we get too far, answering Ezekiel's comments.
I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
Ezra.
Oh yeah, there's another one.
Well, as we know now, J.J. Abrams wanted to make Star Wars, but they gave him Star Trek, so he made Star Trek as Star Wars. And then, of course, he got to go and make Star Wars as well. But yeah, essentially, Star Trek 2009 is a remake of A New Hope with all the Star Trek characters. So that
yes, and that's one of the reasons that Star Trek 2009 doesn't quite work. And it's really not until we see Star Trek Beyond, actually, that we really start seeing a lot of the familiar themes and structures, like storytelling structures, evolving. And that's because Simon Pegg's a huge Trek nerd.
absolutely.
So, with me being a virgin to this, how do you think, which season should I start off? Should I start off with the very first season? Because me personally, I don't mind the classic aesthetic, but maybe other people might not. So,
Ooh,
Yeah, but-
this is the most controversial question you could
Because,
possibly
yeah,
ask in fandom, my friend.
Do you start in Hollywood order or do you start in chronological order as far as like the timeline goes? Because if I were to do that, I started my friends off at First Contact, and then
Yeah.
See, right now, First Contact is the best intro because you have Picard explaining to Lily what Starfleet is, what life is like in the future, and it's an excellent way to introduce the audience to that. But basically, what you get from watching seasons of the show compressed down into a couple minutes narrative.
okay. So, is it kind of like a prequel?
So
No.
First Contact was the 8th movie in which
The
the,
I think it was 11 movies.
14.
14. or
13.
14.
It
I mean,
was-
dude,
well,
you are literally picking, like, I mean, you were asking us to pick from, again, what is it, 50, 60 years?
50.
uh,
53.
it'll
53, I
be, it'll be 3 more years until 60, so 57 years.
So,
next year.
57 years of canon.
Over 1,000 hours of entertainment.
Right. You know, if I wanted you to start anywhere, I would actually start you with Prodigy.
Why Prodigy?
I would start you with Prodigy because Prodigy takes these kids, and I know it's a kid show, but like bear with me for a second because I think it's actually remarkably beautiful storytelling. I would start you with Prodigy because Prodigy takes kids who have no idea what the Federation is and actually walks them through how to become part of Starfleet and the ideals of the Federation, and then ultimately has them show the Federation how to be better.
Problem with that is it's very difficult to watch Prodigy right now because it's no longer on Paramount Plus. You have to buy the individual episodes on the various services or get the
Yes,
DVD.
and there is that as a problem. But in a perfect world, that's where I would start because that is a wonderful introduction to thematically what this world is. And then I would probably, and then after that, I would probably jump, I think, in a weird way, I think I might jump to Lower Decks.
I feel like Lower Decks is a good introduction for modern, like, how do I put this without Marie slapping me? Like, okay, so a lot of when I have like friends that come over and they said they want to watch a feel good episode, I show them the crossover between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. To me, that's a feel good episode.
That is a feel good episode.
It's like you don't necessarily need Star Trek context to get that episode. They tell you it's 120-year difference.
Yeah.
And what's great about Strange or Lower Decks, by the way, is that even though knowing the Star Trek context and it underpinning a lot of the jokes is great, but like you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like that's not required for you to be able to appreciate what's going on. And the other thing I love about Lower Decks is you're actually starting from the bottom. You're not starting with like the captain and the bridge crew. You're actually starting from the people who are in the trenches. And so you're seeing a very different version of the Federation that still bears out the same fundamental themes that we see in Prodigy.
Yeah, my youngest daughter's favorite series of Star Trek is Lower Decks, and that's all she'll sit down and watch. Like I've tried to get her to watch anything else, even Stranger Worlds and Prodigy, no interest. But she will watch Lower Decks over and over again, knowing that she doesn't get half the jokes.
My kids were great with Prodigy until the Ferengi lady.
Oh, I heard that they scared. You told me that the Ferengi lady scared them.
She terrified them, which is weird because they've watched some episodes of Deep Space Nine and they love
live
Quark.
action Ferengi. Basically,
They love Quark though. They love Quark. It's specifically how malevolent she is. And even though they're 5, they pick up on the storytelling in Prodigy.
Right. So okay, I can see that it's like a way to start them out, because it's like I was just telling Jordan earlier. It's just like kind of what I do, because it's like it is a hard decision to try and figure out where to start them. Now, as far as just like giving them like an introduction, what I kind of do is like get a feel for the person, right? Like, what are their interests? What do they like? What do they value the most? And then I pick an episode based on that, or what problems are they facing right now? You know, then I pick an episode based on that. And then I like say, okay, see, they actually home in on this issue. You see 2 women kissing right here, and they've actually been in a past relationship. And this one is
rejoined.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful episode. Beautiful episode.
And it's funny though, like despite the fact that the original series is what kicked all of this off, and I think it's incredibly important to watch the original series to see where we are. That is not where I would start ever.
Because it's like there's a lot of things, like even though Uhura was on the bridge and she did have a seniority role and an equal role, she didn't have any lines, and we didn't even know her first name until 2009.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, and as they pointed out, her job as communications was just that. I mean, she was a glorified telephone operator.
Yes.
It wasn't until Enterprise came out in 2001 that they decided, wait a minute, the communications person could also be a linguist or language expert. And
shocking.
Wow, what an idea.
Shocking.
And of course, the new Uhura is just that, being able to speak 38 languages and learning more.
Right? I mean, she's amazing. And yeah, just and Sheila Rose Gooding is just rocking it. Just rocking it. Also, I desperately want somebody to release her earrings because I want those in my life.
I love her earrings so much.
So, not to cut anyone off, I asked him a question earlier since, what did we say, 57 years?
57. I thought it was 55. It's 57.
So, from start to now, do you feel like they did a great transition? Like, do you feel like
and I said, and I told him, I said, and then
I'm laughing so hard my green screen failed.
I told him, I said,
the tribbles that I use to torture my kids are laughing.
I told him that is the question that gave birth to Trekker's Delight. Like, because
you're not wrong.
Because like there
I think maybe that's what drove Jermaine to like reach out to all of us, but so
by the way, the people that are watching are welcome to comment with their own answers to these questions.
Oh yeah,
this is also true. Seriously, Andrew Ezekiel, tell us what you think. But no, we have had some truly epic shite transitions between shows. All of season 1 of The Next Generation makes me want to cry.
Well,
and it also includes the most racist hour of television I have ever seen. to this day.
What was that? Angel One or
No.
No, that's sexist.
Code of
No, it's
Honor.
Code of Honor.
Code of Honor
The
was the
third
racist one,
episode.
Angel One was the misogynist one.
The
Yeah.
third episode of Next Generation. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. But what's really great and I will not watch Code of Honor again, or Angel One for that matter. But what's really great about Star Trek is even when it screws up so epically, there's still a lot of really interesting analysis to be done in these liminal spaces, to talk about, like, why didn't this work? Like, what were they trying for? And then again, each successive series gets a little bit better. And that's huge because, again, we've got 57 years. I think the only other franchise that has anything approaching that level of history is maybe Doctor Who.
I was thinking
Yeah,
Doctor Who because
Doctor Who
Star Wars
celebrates
didn't make
60
it
years.
that far.
Yeah.
Doctor Who celebrates 60 years in November, but they went from 1966 to 1989, then took a break until 2005, where all
Right.
they had was one TV movie and audio adventures in between. So
Right. So, and the other thing about Doctor Who is Doctor Who's focused on a different type of storytelling. So there have been some real conversations about how it pushes the envelope and whether or not it does. I'm not an expert on that, so I'm just going to set that aside. But what's great about, again, Star Trek is even though there are some really awful episodes of the original
Terrible.
series. I see your sonic screwdriver, sir. Screwdrivers. What we see in Star Trek is at least an effort to do better every time.
Well,
Even in Enterprise, I think
yes.
there's a legitimate effort. I don't think they succeed, but I think they try.
I mean, at least it's worth a try. That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, they're doing something right for it to be able to run for this long and be able to still have a huge fandom and just even me to speak with my curiosity. I mean, of course, I know what Star Trek is, but there's a difference between knowing what being privy to Star Trek and actually knowing what it is and foundation. So I'm actually really interested. That's why
I guarantee you, though, like, you will not find. I mean, there's a huge LGBTQ following for a lot of really good reasons because one of the major themes that is just a through line through the franchise is about difference and acceptance, not in spite of your difference, but because of it.
Mhm. Yeah, he was
Oh.
telling me there's a lot of representation in the series when it just comes down to just overall from racial problems to political problems to sexuality and things of that nature. So things.
They literally drop them certain characters into a modern day ghetto.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, considering like the original series,
And I mean that in the World War II sense.
Mm.
and original series had the diversity of culture, where Next Generation had the diversity of ability, because you literally had as a main character at the pilot in the first season a blind man.
Yep.
And then you had an android who was lacking in social skills and emotional actions, and basically,
It becomes a poster child for the neurodivergent community.
Exactly, that's what it's into. And then of course you had then the aggressive tendencies of Worf, the Klingon figure who was the enemy in the original series, and here he is on the bridge as part of it. So the type of cast they bring together for Next Generation has its diversity, but in a different way than the cultural diversity of the original series.
And I want to piggyback on that, because one of the things I really love about Trek is that just because you're an enemy in one franchise installment doesn't mean you're going to be the enemy in the others. Like, so, I mean, we start with, the Cold War with the Klingons, which were a stand-in, not so subtly, for the actual Cold War that was going on with, the United States and the Russian bloc countries. In fact, Klingons were actually meant to look like some of the more Asian flavors, right, of the Soviet bloc.
Can y'all home in on this? I think this is Question again. Where
The
Andrew?
scant is a takeoff of the uniform where it's basically a.
Is that
they had,
Andrew?
Yeah, sure.
Uh huh.
they had it in the original series, then they had it briefly in Next Generation, and then it disappeared. But it's back on Strange New World.
That's Andrew. Andrew Martin. Yep.
Yeah.
So what is?
But what's
it?
great about the Scant though is first off, the Scant actually evolved out of a really empowering garment, the miniskirt in the 60s. Because the miniskirt was actually adopted by women as a way to demonstrate their liberation from older
Are we talking about
mores,
the
right?
POS outfit? Like
Yeah.
the evolution of the uniform? Okay.
Yes.
Iconic.
And then we move into the Next Generation. And the Next Generation is a little dodgy because it's simultaneously used to demean one of the characters. I'd argue that the intergalactic cheerleader situation is terrible.
Yeah.
But also we see male characters in these mini dresses as well. So like sort of there's this, unfortunately we don't really get to capitalize on that. There's not a lot of discussion about like what's actually happening. Like I think it would have been much more powerful to have seen a main character in one of these mini dresses and nobody saying anything about it.
Let's say the only time.
But in the late 80s, early 90s, that was not going to happen.
But we have now gotten that in Strange New Worlds, in which
Yes.
they have worn this scant, both male and female
Yes.
characters, and no
Yes.
one has said a word about it.
Yes.
Because
So there's almost a narrative here in terms of how the costuming works in Star Trek that sort of like just represents and indicates exactly where we are on this evolution.
because I saw the scant. I saw this uniform over in Encounter at Farpoint for like that one guy that was directing the traffic, and you saw him. He was wearing it, and I think that was that like an homage to like the TOS uniform type deal? Like
No, that was legitimately Roddenberry kind of basically just saying, look, this isn't going to matter. Because it's not just an Encounter in Farpoint, and it's kind of sprinkled throughout season 1,
So,
or at least the first
regardless
half of
of-
season 1.
Deanna wore it for all of Encounter at Farpoint. That was her uniform. Yeah.
also,
Yes,
shout out to the 5 people that are watching right now. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah.
6. Okay. 6.
And
yeah.
more will be watching later. Make sure you please speak up in the comments. We love to hear from you as well.
Yes, please speak in the comments. This is
Okay. All right, getting off of the scant, Jordan, back to you.
Okay. So if you could rate,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
if you could rate, I'll go easy. If you could rate the first half of the series, of the overall series, and
I'm gonna need you to specify which series, my dude.
He doesn't know that there's.
I know.
Okay, all right.
So I'm actually listening to how this question is going to be
Okay.
phrased.
Okay.
so let me rephrase this. If you could scale from 1 to 10, and 10 cannot be your answer, the first 25 years of Star Trek, what would you give it?
Oh, okay.
For what?
Just overall entertainment.
So 1966 to
1991.
1991. So
So
That's
Is
the
that,
original series, animated series.
that's Star Trek 5 or Star Trek 6?
That's Star Trek 5.
Star Trek
That's up to 5, and that's the first 3 seasons of Next Generation.
So we cut off there. Oh man,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get.
I think a 5 or
okay.
6. Maybe.
Ooh, that's being generous.
Yeah.
That's being generous. Because again, thank you, Ezekiel.
Cool.
I think so.
Oh,
But let me tell you. Okay, so like
okay.
so there are some really fantastic episodes in the original series. I think City on the Edge of Forever.
Mhm.
I'm actually a huge fan of A Private Little War.
Balance
For
of
what it
Terror
is.
for me, fantastic.
Balance of Terror, also an amazing episode that we actually get a redux in Strange New Worlds. And then there are some really heinous ones.
Yes.
Spock's Brain.
Plato's Stepchildren.
Also terrible.
last
Turnabout Intruder.
Oh,
Turnabout
well, the
Intruder.
very last
they
episode.
did her so wrong. They did.
They
her so
did. They did that whole thing so wrong, and it's
The
just
drama
no,
make
no,
me
no, no,
interested.
no. That is the most sexist hour of television I've
Misogyny
seen.
and sexism was huge. in
Yeah,
the
no, it's
show.
heinous. Yeah, no, it's absolutely heinous.
And then you had the animated series. It was only 22 episodes,
never even
each one
seen the
only
animated series,
25
though.
minutes long. They're all on Paramount Plus now, and Yesteryear is a fantastic
fantastic
episode.
episode.
And it
Just
was
a
only 20 some minutes of this, and it was very well done.
I actually like the Infinite Vulcan as well.
Yes, that one as well.
That was written by Walter Koenig, by the way.
Yeah. Mud's Passion, not so much.
No.
So TAS came out in the 70s, right?
Yes, 71 to 72.
So Star Trek never really took as long a break as Star Wars and Doctor Who did.
Correct.
I think that's fair, but only just.
Yeah, because the original series ran from 66 to 69.
Right.
Then you had 71, 72 animated series. Motion picture was 79. Wrath of Khan in 82, followed by Search for Spock in 85 and 87 for Voyage Home. And that's when Next Generation launched, was 87.
I think the biggest gap actually is between the end of Enterprise and the beginning of Discovery.
Yes. Well,
Yes,
technically
sure,
that's the Kelvin.
Yeah.
Well, Enterprise ended 2005, but then we had the first Kelvin movie in 2009.
Right. I mean, that's fair, but
really, you.
As far as Prime universe goes,
right?
Yeah, but to be fair, let's be real. It's the fact that we had the 2009 movies and the Kelvinverse that actually got us Discovery.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I've seen a lot of real anger about people who became Star Trek fans because of the Kelvin universe and because all of a sudden they were watching the pretty people.
We had to get the new generation in somehow, I guess.
Well, the cast of the Kelvinverse is fantastic. They did an absolutely excellent job of finding a great cast to take over the roles from the original series. But we've seen them do it again now because the new Spock, the new Kirk, we're on our third Spock or third Kirk or third Uhura, and they're all still doing a fantastic.
It's fantastic, job. And our third Scotty too.
Yep. So
wait, so you got a 6.5.
I'm not gonna give it a number. Okay. I don't like numbers.
Okay.
If I liked numbers, I would have done anything other than go to law school.
What about you?
Oh God. Okay, so it's not fair for me to grade it. I can't give the first half a number because I've only ever seen, other than iconic episodes in TOS, I've never seen any of TAS, and I've never seen the rest of TOS because Marie knows why. And I hope that we keep this renaissance of Star Trek going today. But I watch like on average one new episode of TOS a month, under the possibility that should anything ever happen to any of the new Star Trek shows, it's like watching a new Star Trek episode every once in a while. And then I'm like, hey, I remember this reference in TNG. Oh yeah, they talked about that in Deep Space Nine. But as far as like iconic TOS episodes go, like the Tribble episode, I've seen that. Like, Amok Time was one that Marie had me watch last year. That was, I also made you watch
Turnabout Intruder.
I watched Turnabout Intruder, and I remember talking with you and Robin, God rest her soul, about like I didn't understand, and that's the thing about Trekker's Delight that I also liked is that even me, gay, black, and the whole package deal, there was some things that I didn't understand was sexist and misogynistic in certain TOS. So I had to ask them. I said, hey, I need you to explain to me what's wrong with this so that way I can know how to approach it, because I feel like based on the manhood and how I was raised and where I was raised, I'm not getting it. Like, and I need someone to show me how. And that's another thing. Like, we can talk about differences, and because even the best of us can still learn.
You don't start blaming until the day you die,
right? And that's also one of the best parts about Trek, right? Is that's valued. This concept of learning, of meeting new people, of having these new experiences is valuable and almost necessary for growth in Star Trek, and that's not really something we get in a lot of media.
That going back to what I said, my guiding forces. I had a scout leader that told me that said, if you don't learn 2 new things in a day, consider the day wasted. And then I watched First Contact, in which Picard says, we don't work for monetary gain, we work to better ourselves. We gain from making ourselves better constantly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I say this is, I guess this is like why Star Trek Part 2. Because the last time why Star Trek, it was an FTP episode. Remember, Marie?
I do.
But, okay, so since we got like 5 minutes left, this is the tea time, and it won't take long. I promise.
Okay, share the tea.
So basically, next weekend is Comic-Con here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay?
Woo.
We're gonna have a lot of cool faces here. 2 of them being, depending on how you define him as cool, William Shatner and Jonathan Frakes. Okay?
I'm jealous about Frakes.
Well, yeah. Hold on. I think this is Andrew.
For the first 25 years.
Go ahead.
Solid 8.
I'd give it a solid 8 because while it covers decades, it was a product of its time, but also tried to challenge the mindset of the times, leading to interesting and entertaining stories. That said, that 8 is a very wavy based on the ups and downs of individual.
I feel like that's fair.
That's how you sell
I feel
the
like
show
that's fair.
to me.
That's
how you sell the show to me. I like that.
That was
good.
And
All right,
he goes
so
like, I like tea.
Part
I mean,
two.
of course. In the intro of Trekkers, you see a guy pouring tea. So we like Earl Grey.
I do love tea. I
We
prefer
love
tea
tea.
over coffee.
Yeah,
all day.
coffee all day. So
Give me a good Earl Grey green tea.
So one of the goals that I have is to pretty much jump back into Trekkers Delight full time, as well as the studio full time, because it's like the photo that I've showed you. We made a lot of upgrades. Okay, cool. So one of those things that now has to give is William's time. Well, how does that happen when he's working 70 hours a week? Well, that means that at his other job at Best Buy, he's going to have to say, hey, I can't work here as much as I can anymore. I would respectfully ask you, and I did 12 days in advance, please revert me back to part-time. Mainly because if I would have stayed on that consistent schedule, I would have missed that Comic-Con altogether. Now, it'll be a cold day in hell before I miss a chance to miss Jonathan Frakes or William Shatner. So I kindly told my manager, I said, and that's why I'm not going to say any names, but I pretty much said, well, listen, like I pretty much have the numbers for you to keep me, but if this is a deal breaker, I need you to tell me now so I can make other arrangements. Because when you have your ducks in a row, and you got your backup plan in order, you already have a second job that's actually making you more, like they can't really say nothing to you. Because when I tell you, I will quit how many times did I say on new episodes of Picard, the good ones, that I was
So not season 2.
Yeah, I know, right? So not season 2. But season 3, like I said, girl, I almost quit my job today. I almost quit my job because that episode was so good. Like, have you ever just seen a show that was so good that it made you think about your life?
Yeah, I just ran into 2 series like that.
Exactly. So William's time is now freed up, and yay, I can be in the studio again more and more. It was a very interesting conversation. He said, William, I feel like you blindsided me. Like, it was very irresponsible of you to get a job while
irresponsible. You want to
like to get a job while working here, and I said
that right there is why Europe is better.
You gonna pay me more?
Like, I don't see you. And I told him, I said, like, you knew the day one, like that I have 2 things that I love: my money and Star Trek. That's it. Like,
my money goes to Star Trek.
Sorry, because I'm sorry. William Wesley Walford is gonna get casted on Star Trek Legacy. I promise you, it's going to happen. Okay.
I mean, let's get it made first. Okay.
Let's get him the green light first. Yeah.
That's actually funny that you say that. If you could actually be on this show and they told you can build your own character.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, okay,
you are not allowed to bring back your Alien Star Trek fusion crossover fanfic. You're not.
Okay, so I thought about this for a while. Okay, so option one.
Okay.
Damn it, Jordan, you pulled the string. You pulled the string, man.
There you go. You gotta breathe.
The Brita picture.
I know I'm a bother that brought a picture. So option one in Star Trek, like that's a new show that's supposed to be coming out hopefully in the next 2 years.
Okay. What's your name? What's the character's name?
So the character's name is Alexander Rozhenko. I want to play as him. Like,
is that already existing character?
yes.
You're
No,
way
you have to
too
build,
tall.
no, you got to build a whole new character.
William, you're way too tall.
No, it has to be a new character. What was your
Who
role?
wants our cute? Like,
But
But
not,
Alexander was not.
remember,
he was
Alex.
a teenager the last time we saw him. It's been 20 years. I think I could pull it off. Like,
No, I want you to build your own character.
I want to be my own character.
What would your character be able to do to help with this show? When their mission, like, what?
And I'm going to point out that we are going to wrap this and then transition
How about
into
this? How
beautiful
about
bean footage.
We will get into this next week, okay?
Well,
Like,
Yep.
hey, we have 2 episodes to review next week because Lower Decks is coming at us with 2 episodes.
They are.
oh,
So
next
we're
week
gonna
coming
have
out with
2,
episodes.
and the next day we're gonna have Star Trek Day. So we might as well
and,
try
then,
to
and,
do.
then and then the Comic-Con convention. Oh my god!
Well, this is
We might as well try to do 2 live shows next week.
It is nerdgasm time, guys. Woohoo!
Yeah,
so yeah, of course. But you guys, it's been great. Jordan,
So
thank
next
you.
week we
Thank
got
you for
2 VIX, TWOVIX, the first episode of season 4, and then
They're going there.
Yep. And I have no bones, yet I must flee. The second episode for Lower Deck season 4. So get ready to watch.
I'm guessing we're gonna have a McCoy reference.
Oh, we got it. We got to.
But remember, next week is Star Trek Day. There'll be a conference all day with a Jerry. Ransom from Lower Decks. Jerry O'Connell hosting. There, you'll be able to watch Strange New Worlds on CBS. And in select cities, they are showing a Star Trek Lower Decks presentation with live giveaways and merchandise. I was able to get 2 tickets to the one in DC, and
It's awesome.
I'm not going
That's less awesome.
because my daughters love the show, so I'm sending them, and I have friends that are going to watch after them, and I'll just sit outside the East Street Cinema and wait. But yeah, if you have a chance to get tickets, go for it. And of course, we'll be back next week. So in the meantime, remember to like, share, comment below with your thoughts on Jordan's questions. Jordan, thank you for joining us tonight, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful bean footage.
One last announcement. I'm going to be doing a test run of a possible new show for Trekkers Delight on Labor Day, Monday night, called Trek That. So, there'll be a weekly new Star Trek news shouting contest, so we'll see how that goes. So hopefully join us live on Monday night for Trek That here on the Trekkers Delight Network.
Cool.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not gonna ever say it on the internet. Yeah, never. yeah.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. Wait. There was a shadow of a church.
Okay. What?
William has questionable
I didn't
ideas
catch
about
that
what he
one.
puts.
I didn't
William
catch
has
that
questionable ideas about what he puts on the internet.
Oh, I remember that episode.
Uh-huh.
I remember that episode. Yeah.
Wait. What?
We put on an audio version of this